So, if I said that Star Wars Episode 2 was the worst Star Wars movie, then you gotta assume Star Wars Episode 1, Phantom Menace, is the second worst. It's very close. What's bad about them is similar, what's good about them is similar. And there's so much to talk about when it comes to this movie. Like, this is like my sixth time trying to make this freaking video. So, where to start? It is impossible to talk about episode 1 without acknowledging the fact that for a lot of people, myself included, this was the first Star Wars movie that came out in our lifetimes. The previous ones for me were just part of a collective nostalgia that we all assumed and agreed was good. I wasn't alive in 77, I wasn't alive in 83. I didn't experience the time that produced those movies. I was alive in 99 and I experienced the time that produced episode 1 and produced the reaction to episode 1. So, people don't like the plot. They're like, okay, I showed up for a space opera and lasers and swords and magic and stuff like that, and I got trade routes and blockades and senates and politics and councils and bureaucracy, and what's up with that? Now, today, if I told you a story that a stymied bureaucracy was manipulated by an evil man that used it to create his own fascist government in the end, using corruption and money and racism and all the other stuff, that would be a little more relevant in 2018 than 1999, wouldn't it? Just a little bit. I'm not even talking about just the United States either. Like, Russia and China in the past week or whatever have taken steps backwards towards totalitarianism and single-party politics and sham elections and all this other crap. Like, 2018 is a little more understanding to the plot of Phantom Menace than 1999 was. It has aged way better than you'd think. And in fact, way better than its like freaking CGI. Like, that's another thing people complain about. Its CGI does not look good today. Let me tell you something. Nothing in 1999 that relied heavily upon CGI looks good today. Just throwing that out there. As for the other things that people complain about, it's the acting again. Like, the acting is not great when it comes to its main central character and the romance surrounding him. Same thing as episode 2. I will never meet Jake Lloyd, the guy that plays Anakin, but it sounds like his life has been fairly difficult when it comes to people like me reacting to his performance in this movie. He's pretty much left the industry. It seems like he has a tough time dealing with people being a jerk about it. It's not all his fault, right? He was 9 or 10 when it came out, and there's good child actors, but it's not all his fault. Like, how do you, as a 9-year-old, make the line "whoopee" work? Like, it's part of the writing, it's part of the directing, just like episode 2. It's part of the basic storytelling of the prequel trilogy. Like, the romance is weird. She's 14, he's 9, just like the Weird Al song says. He doesn't look like he's 9. He looks like he's younger. He feels like he's younger sometimes. She doesn't look like she's 14. I think she's like 17 or 18 when it's filmed. She feels like an adult. If that's the basis for your romance, that your main character saw this lady as a child and fell in love with her, it's creepy. It's really creepy. It gets even creepier in episode 2. And as I said before in the past review, like, he probably should have been a tragic character, something that was good, that was likable, that turned to evil and dislikable. And I don't think that was a conscious decision by this band making these movies. Like, it seems like it's always supposed to be foreboding in his eyes. There's always supposed to be moments of darkness and anger and doubt and unlikability, and it makes it really hard to like this character. If you don't have a character to like, then it's really hard to like these movies. If that was his conscious decision, good job, mission accomplished. I don't know why you made that choice, but you may have ruined Jake Lloyd's life. Jar Jar is another thing people complain about when it comes to this movie. I'll tell you what, my dad kind of likes Jar Jar. Like he's an original Star Wars fan. It sounds weird to us, probably, that an original Star Wars fan liked him, but he did. I mean, there's comedic elements in every single Star Wars movie that are usually the first thing people complain about. It may be R2D2 or C3PO in a different movie, like Episode 2, or the Ewoks in Episode 6, but they're always there. Not even his own people like him. I mean, and they pulled him a little bit from the further movies, so they may have learned the lesson. He's not terrible. I mean, as far as why this movie is better than Episode 2, it's mostly the plot, I guess you could say, or not necessarily the plot, but just like the major storytelling chunks of the movie. Episode 2 is slow at the start, nobody's likable, blah, blah, blah. Episode 1 starts off with you get the scroll, that's kind of weird. They go in there, they're doing something, ships are blowing up, they're trying to negotiate with the droids, they're chopping stuff up, there's a ground war starting, they're running out of the way of these machines that are stomping everything. They find Jar Jar Binks, who's weird, and anyway, something goes on in the beginning that makes you like Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan because they're fighting stuff and they seem powerful and they seem like they know what they're doing. That is a big difference between Episode 2, where everyone seems stupid and they're not doing anything. Like, Episode 1 is action, some slowness, action, some slowness, action. Episode 2 is slowness, action, slowness, action. Episode 1 at least starts you off with a bang and brings you down, brings you back up. That goes a long way to making a better movie. That goes a real long way to making a better movie. It also has maybe the best lightsaber battle in the entire freaking series when it comes to action. That is great. The music, the everything about that lightsaber battle is good. The loss of Qui-Gon might not be, but in fact, let's talk about it. Qui-Gon Jinn, what was he doing? Like, I want to know what Qui-Gon was doing. The more I watch these prequel trilogies recently, the more I go like, he's an interesting character. Is he a good guy? Is he a bad guy? There's characters in Episode 2 on either side of the battle that like him. Count Dooku's like, yeah, I wish he was here. And you're like, was Qui-Gon a bad guy? Was Qui-Gon working for the Emperor? Was he manipulated by the Emperor? He found this kid. He seemed damn sure that he was going to train him. He's ignoring the Jedi Council, and he's lying to the Queen. He's doing all sorts of things. Qui-Gon Jinn is a very interesting, shadowy character that is not thoroughly explored. I would love to see a solo movie about him. Like, seems like there's some stuff going on there. He may or may not have brought balance to the Force. He may or may not have known what that meant. Did he know it meant the Jedi Council's influence would wane and all this other crap? I don't know. It's interesting. But yeah, it's not quite as bad as Episode 2, but it's close. It's real close. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Episode 1 seemed to be the thing that turned off an entire generation of Star Wars fans. But the generation after me might have some nostalgia for it. Like, my brother was big into Star Wars as a kid. He's 6.5 years younger than me. Episode 2 was like, I think, the peak of his Star Wars fandom and all the toys and video games and stuff surrounding that. So I'd love to hear from younger viewers what you think of these movies. It'd be really interesting. And I think you're going to be very interested to see what the next movie on the list